Welcome. In today's video, we're going to dive into this, the key influencer visual available in Power BI Desktop. After this tutorial, you will feel confident in how to use it. What we're going to do is we're going to utilize Olympic data to pump it into this artificial intelligence visual, setting up different factors which will enable the key influencer visual to essentially tell us what metrics, what attributes drive the results of a metric. So in this case, we'll look, what's it take to get to gold? So please take a minute, hit the subscribe button. Let's dive into Power BI. All right, here we are. So what we're gonna do is first, I'm gonna give you a walkthrough of this dashboard, which highlights the key influencer visual. It's gonna be very important to understand not just what the data is, but also how to design a dashboard around the key influencer visual. So what I'm gonna do first is give a tour of this dashboard. Then we're gonna talk about the data set. Let me turn on the click cursor here just to help things show up. Then we'll talk about the data set to help you understand what's going on there. Then I'm gonna take this blank situation, delete this, we'll rebuild the visual and configure it. So first, what we're looking at here is, we'll tell you about this key influencer visual, what are the main components of it? Okay, and so for this dashboard, what you're gonna wanna notice is first we have some new filters set up utilizing the new filter where you can pick the games you want to analyze. You're seeing all these things change. I'll talk about it. But first, let's just understand the concept of the dashboard. You can pick, is it winter or summer games? And that's going to drive what's fed to the key influencers visual. Then you can pick male or female. As well as, so let's say we look at the summer games. Well, we have summer games, we have data historically dating back, across the span of time. So what we're going to do is then you can pick from the top, maybe I want to look at a certain year. And on the side, maybe I want to look at a certain sport. And no influences are found, so we'll talk about that, how influences are found and how they're not found. So the key thing to understand first, before even talking about the visual, is that it's interactive. And as you can tell by all these things I'm clicking, without yet knowing how to read and interpret the key influencer visual, things are changing. So it's very important to set up a story around the influencer visual. That's just gonna help increase the capability of how this can be utilized. All right, so that's the overview. Let's talk about the data, and then we'll start building this and getting to the guts of it. So if I go to the Dataset tab, what we have here is a data model that we have a data set from Kaggle that has all attributes from the various Olympic Games that have occurred. If we go through each of these columns, there's going to be on the right-hand side, 2 calculations, the number of events, the number of gold medals, and then competitor attributes, things that are about the person competing, their age, their height, the name, their sex, their weight, as well as then event attributes such as city, the season, the year and the season, the sport, the team, the year. So why you need to know that is so you can get the granularity of this stuff kind of understood. Year is going to group obviously the year that the event took place, but then there'll be a sport. Within the sport, there's an event, and within that, there's going to be people who then either got a medal or did not. A lot of people do not get a medal. Some get a silver, bronze, gold, etc. So that's the data set. Please check it out. This entire file, again, is available on the GitHub link in the description of this YouTube video. Please download it and follow along. It's going to be very helpful for you. So now, key influencers visual. Well, first let's just talk about what this thing is before we set it up. So when you think about the set of visualizations available in Power BI, they have 4 AI visuals. And the first one, or this one today we're going to be talking about, is key influencers, which is what we pulled up here. So what this does is I've loaded it already to say the first question is where your eyes go to. What influences the medal awarded to be gold? This is a categorical element. It's not a number, it's an attribute. There's another setup you'll be able to do utilizing something that is continuous or a measure like, say, sales. What makes the sales increase? What makes the sales decrease? For this, start with categorical. And now what happens is, based upon what I select around the perimeter, say I want to analyze swimming. This is, and say we just look at females. We uncheck all of these things. Swimming females. And what's important in this tutorial and demo is the reason why I'm talking so much about the front end of this thing is to understand how this visual works at the end state, so then you can apply it to your own solutions, to your own data sets, to the dashboard you're creating. It's these kind of visuals that can take solutions to the next level, take them up a notch versus a standard bar chart. But they also can complicate things as they're more complex. And sometimes they don't tell as good a story, honestly. Sometimes they're just not right to be used. But putting the things around the perimeter of this is only going to help you. So diving back into this. To talk through this visual, again, we're looking at female swimming across all of these years with the range set up here. Well, there's the first thing you're going to see is obviously what's bringing it up to the front. What influences medal awarded to be gold? Well, right now, this AI model is saying that the height, when it's 188 centimeters, you're 4.94% more likely to get gold. And if you're not sure what that is, you can, again, click it. And when I don't have the highlighter on, it will actually, oh, there it goes, right there. So then it will give you a text statement. When the height is 188, the medal awarded is 4.94 more times likely to be gold compared to all the other values of height. So that's important compared to all the other values of height. So it's taking this and bumping against all the other results that could be returned from height. If we look at our data set, you can see, again, height, all kinds of heights in here. Lots of different heights. Some heights are even missing. Some things are blank. We don't have the values for some things. So you'll see that in the data as well. Sometimes it recognizes that blank is an influencer, which might not be what you're looking for. So we'll go back to female, and I think, what do we do? Speed skating. So we're doing weight. We're just looking at speed skating right now. So weight is 53. And that's the first thing that pops up. But then secondly, below that, is it's going to show you the other attributes. And I'm going to, again, the next part will be how to set it up. I'm just talking about how to interpret it first. So it's dynamic. So if we just stay on where the weight, the kilogram is 53 centimeters, we hover over it, it will show the box that came up. It's a little bit delayed here. But now also you can click or just hover over the bars themselves on the visual that's generated. It's going to give you attributes about this. So in this case, it's going to say, of this, which is the 53 kilograms, there were a total of 23 events, 17.39% of the time the medal awarded is gold. So it's doing an algorithm to say the impact. It's not just counting the most, though counting the most is important because sometimes the algorithm isn't going to necessarily give you valuable information. The goal of this is just to help you with some insights that could be driving the metric. So if I switch it to count, actually, if you look, weight now, and we'll show you how to set this up, count. Well, when I do weight, it's actually near the bottom of count. So what does that mean? So of all the speed skating, there were 23 events where the weight was 53. But if we go to now age, that became at the top level for count, we can see that there's 163 events that had people of age 24. But if we scroll to the left, you'll see that the bar increases. So now we're starting to understand how do you interpret and read this thing? Like this bar is shorter, but it has the most. And that's where it's very important to just understand the percentage. I'll also put in an article that you can read too. But what this is saying is the percent of the medal awarded is gold for the things that we're selecting. So the reason why I have count picked and why this is at the top is if we go to age 34, down here at the bottom, you can see it's age 34. Well, the medal awarded percent is 9.9%. So it has the largest bar, but that only happened 11 times. So if we're looking for the number of events as we're sorting by the time or occurrences things happened, that's going to be 24. And again, you can go through and keep clicking these things. I have multiple things. Height, again, height is going to be the second, 127. But if we switch back to impact, it's lower down the list. So again, we'll configure this to add things, but it's important to understand how to interpret it. With anything you select, any of these things you click, it's going to generate the average line, and then there'll be an impact algorithm that runs to determine what should that be for that measure, and it will rank it and score it. What happens as well is top segments. So you're going to have key influencers, which we just talked about, and then you're going to have top segments. So what this is saying is the height of the bubble means that it has more impact, and the size of the bubble means it has a larger population. So it can be a little bit confusing and sometimes not as informative as we'd hope. But if you click into it, like this says, and typically segments are grouped like this one. This is a great one. So if we look at this, essentially the difference between a key influencer and a top segment is a segment is typically a collection of multiple attributes that are uniquely grouped together to form a percentage of the population. So what this is saying is that in this segment number 2, 5% of the metal is gold, and it's higher than the average by 1%, which is 3.9. So it's a unique collection, and it's saying the age is not, it's a kind of in this case what it's not. So if you're someone who's not any of these things at all, then you are in this segment. You can always click learn more about a segment. It will generate more artificial insights where you can get further into it. Dive into segment 2 to see if you would split it by additional fields. You can click additional attributes to dive into those metrics. But the important thing to understand when you're doing this with your own data, because we're going to set it up here in a second, is first, again, how to interpret it. So you'll have your influencers, which are the key things that are uniquely going to drive the results of whatever you selected to be influenced. And then the segments will be collections of attributes that you've configured that are grouped together to form a significant segment. When we look at this again, if I close this out, again, why the bubble is down here below, it's because it has a larger percent of the population, 836, 5% impact. This has a higher impact, 117, larger population count. All right, so now let's copy this and start building it to talk through all the formatting and how you can set this visual up. So what I'm gonna do is I already copied it, deleted it. We have a blank canvas. I love the blank canvas, it gives us tons of opportunity. So what you do first is go to AI visuals, choose the visual, and there is nothing there. Here are the various ways you can populate it. Okay, so again, everything we're doing with this example is a categorical thing you're going to analyze. I'll do a thing at the end to show you kind of how it's a little bit different if you do a analysis of a measure like total sales. All the things I'm going to show you apply to both. It's just a little bit of a different tweak. And this data set's more set up for categorical analysis versus continuous like sales. So anyways, the first thing when you're setting this up is to say, what question do I want to answer? What thing do I want to evaluate? So if it's a category, if it's a rating, low ratings, high ratings, gold medals, no medals, all those things, that's what you're going to put in the analyze. It's a single thing. It's a one-stop thing you want to get insights about. So in this case, we have a measure called medal awarded. Let's add that to analyze. It's an error. It doesn't have enough stuff. How do you want this to be explained? So why, I'll add attributes, then we'll circle back. So what I want this to be explained by is I'm curious about competitor attributes that aren't necessarily like selectable like a city. So if I choose age, height, sex as a filter, but it won't really make a difference because there's always going to be, it's like a one or zero. Weight, we'll add these things. So we add the explain by. The expand by is going to be for the measures. If you, we'll look at that secondly, but just focus on the explain by first. Okay, so we've created this, and if we go back to our example of, what did we pick here? We did speed skating, I think, and female. So what we're looking at is the good thing about this visual is it's pretty quick to set up, but then you can have details of how to format it. So we're going to go through all the categories on the right hand side. So we've added all of these things. We can even add other things. Maybe let's say the city. Maybe I'm curious if something that happens in a city, if for some reason it's different. It probably won't be, but we'll add it. As you can see, it's not a key influencer. So let's dive into this now. All right, within the visual itself, size and style, this is going to have the groupings for the basic general formatting. The size and position, where do you want it? Typically that's adjusted just by moving it around. Padding, pretty standard. A background, if you want to set the background, I think our previous one I chose the blue, but then made it transparent so it's lighter so you can kind of see it more. Like this. Let me get the actual color of blue I'm using from the column headers. We'll copy this. So to keep things the same, if I come to this visual, I choose the background, I'll set this up as that same color, but then I will make it kind of transparent. All right, so it's lighter. So visual border shadow, if you wanted to have this kind of floating off the page, you can enable the shadow. I'll do that in this case just to change it up. That's the size and style. The title, of course, you can add. I don't think it's really necessary because everything in this is pretty intuitive. The title, you don't really need it. Now the analysis. This is important. So what you first see is on the previous page, we had count, and that's very important when we're doing the analysis to be able to click and order and sort things by the number of occurrences, not just by the AI's impact metric. So what I always 100% recommend you do is once you're into here, always enable counts. It's just going to be more information. It's only going to help you. Key influencers, obviously we want that on as well. So the analysis type, it's defaulting to be categorical because that's what I put on the analysis type. I put a category. If you add a measure like sales, it will be a different analysis type, slightly different changes, slightly different tweaks. Count type, relative or absolute, pretty straightforward there. So what we'll do is we'll keep it. We're not worried. We'll keep the absolute value idea. We don't need to worry about the relativeness of things. So now the bubble visual colors. There's not much formatting you change on this visual, but the primary elements, if you pick this, you'll see it will change. The previous one, we had the red. So let's go get that same red. And copy that. So for the primary elements, we'll pick this red. That will help highlight what we care about. And then finally, the chart, or these data bars. And we've set up the visual. So the thing about these AI visuals as well is the setup is not complex, typically. It's how do you interpret the results, and should you even use the visual in the first place? There's a lot of times where a dashboard should not have one because it's not always the truth. It's an AI prediction, it's an AI model suggestion. But if you're interested in seeing quickly what are the insights, how can things rank by both impact and count, then using this visualization is just a great choice to analyze your data, especially when you circle the perimeter of it with other things like shooting, fencing, everything else, the different filters around it, both informative filters and standard filters. So finally, if I copy this real quick, you're all set up. You are set up with how to use this visual. If you do change this, because again, the most important thing is understanding how to interpret the results of it. Less about configuring it, but how to interpret the results. Check out the link I sent as well. And if you have anything else, ping me in the comments. I'll be happy to help. We're going to keep going through additional AI visuals, including the navigation tree, the decision tree, and the smart narrative and other things. But now you should be able to set up that key influencer with confidence. If you want to it won't work for this, but I'll just show you a slight difference. If I duplicate this, I did create a measure called number of gold medals. It's simply just calculating a count of all the events that have a gold medal. This is a continuous value versus a categorical. So the visual behaves differently. So it's not as effective with this data set. It won't work as well, which is why the demo for this one has been around a categorical. But if I remove this and I add gold medals, we might be able to find something. But the first thing you'll notice is that what influences this value before I could pick to a categorical value to be gold, be bronze, be silver, or no medals, this is going to be increase or decrease. And it's going to be harder to pull up results for this. Primarily, I'll add more to it, but primarily because the data set I have for this example is built for categorical analysis. If you have something like sales that trends over time, that would be a great reason to then analyze something off of a measure. And then the same things apply that we looked at earlier with how to use it and how to set it up. I just wanted you to show that to you. But another key kind of thing is you can continue to expand on analysis when you add additional measures to the expand by section. But overall, that's a tour of the key influencer visual. You should be able to be set up and use it and drive insights. Again, put things around the perimeter of it to tell a more complete story than just what the visual gives itself. Thank you. Give me a comment and have a good one. Talk to you later. Bye.